Alhamdulillah, in the name of Allah, the most gracious, the most merciful, may peace and blessings be upon our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Have you ever noticed how the heart trembles long before the world outside does? How a single moment, a single word, or a single fear can shake your entire inner landscape, even when everything around you seems still? Sometimes our storms are invisible, and the only place they rage is within. And in those moments, we silently ask ourselves, how do I stay calm? How do I hold myself together when life pulls me in every direction? There comes a realization. Soft, subtle, divine calmness is not found in the world outside. Calmness is gifted by the one who created the heart itself. It flows from him, not from circumstances. It is not born from a life without problems. It is born from a heart that knows where to place them. Allah reminds us again and again that He is with the patient, with those who trust, with those who surrender their storms to Him. And when Allah is with you, what could possibly overpower you? But we forget. We forget that every moment is written. Every delay is intentional. Every hardship has a hidden mercy. Every pain carries a secret gift. And every unanswered prayer is answered, just in a timeline more perfect than we can imagine. This is what Qadr truly means, that you are held by a plan crafted by the one who knows your past, your present, and every breath of your future. The struggle, however, is real. We wait for answers. We ache in silence. We carry wounds no one sees. We replay old memories, old fears, old disappointments. And the mind becomes a battlefield where we fight yesterday's pain with today's strength. It exhausts us. It breaks us. And we wonder why peace feels so far away. But calmness, deep soul-level calmness, begins the moment the heart whispers, Ya Allah, I trust your plan more than my fears. I trust your timing more than my impatience. I trust you more than I trust myself. Remember, the Prophet taught us that the strongest person is not the one who never feels anger or pain, but the one who controls it, who pauses, who breathes, who returns to Allah before reacting to the world. When life feels overwhelming, pause. Return to the one who never overwhelms. Say, Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil, brah. ND, watch how your breathing slows. Watch how your thoughts settle like dust after a storm, brah. Allah says that in the remembrance of Him, hearts find rest. Not temporary rest, not shallow calmness, but the kind of tranquility that settles into your bones. He kind that cannot be stolen by bad news, delays, or heartbreak. And this is the reminder your mind needs. Every day, you don't train your mind to stay calm by controlling the world. You train your mind by surrendering to the one who controls it. Slow down. Breathe with intention. Remember Allah with sincerity. Speak to Him before you speak to anyone else. Forgive those who wounded you so your heart can finally exhale. Let gratitude repair what fear has damaged. Let dua soften what pain has hardened. Calmness isn't a moment. Calmness is a daily choice to return to Allah. Again and again, until your soul learns that nothing can shake a heart that relies on Him. Calmness begins with recognizing that nothing happens without the permission of Allah, and this truth is what steadies a heart that is constantly shaken by the unpredictability of life. When a person understands deeply and sincerely that every event, whether joyful or painful, is written by a Lord who is infinitely wise, then the panic that once lived inside them begins to loosen its grip. The mind becomes calmer, not because life becomes easier, but because the soul stops fighting the flow of destiny. It no longer wrestles with what could have been or what should have been. Instead, it rests in what is, knowing that every moment is unfolded with divine precision. This realization doesn't remove hardships, but it transforms how you carry them. Suddenly, the delay you once questioned becomes a protection you didn't see. The loss you mourned becomes a doorway to growth you never expected. The disappointment that broke you becomes the turning point that brings you back to Allah. And in this understanding, your heart finds a serenity that the world cannot give and cannot take away. When you wake up each morning and tell yourself that today will only bring what Allah has already written, your chest feels lighter. You no longer rush to control people or outcomes. You no longer panic over the unseen. You begin to carry a silent confidence, a quiet trust that whatever arrives in your life is meant for you, and whatever leaves was never meant to stay. You stop begging circumstances to align with your expectations and start aligning your heart with Allah's decree. And every time your mind tries to wander into fear or uncertainty, you remind yourself gently, nothing touches me except what my Lord has allowed. And my Lord allows nothing except what will eventually lead me toward good. The heart finds stability when it surrenders to the wisdom behind Allah's timing. And this surrender is one of the most powerful sources of inner calm a believer can experience. Most of our anxiety comes from wanting life to unfold according to our schedule. Wanting answers now, relief now, clarity now. But life rarely moves at the pace we hope for. Doors stay closed longer than we expect. Prayers seem to linger in the unseen, and the heart becomes restless when it tries to force what has not yet been written. The moment you begin to trust that Allah's timing is not delayed but perfectly arranged, your heart softens and your mind begins to quiet. There is a gentle peace that enters the soul when it accepts that Allah never withholds out of cruelty, but only out of wisdom. Sometimes He delays because your heart is not ready. Sometimes He holds back because the blessing you ask for may be harmful in ways you cannot yet see. And sometimes He gives you time, not to punish you, but to strengthen you, heal you, or prepare you for something far greater than what you imagined. When you understand this, waiting no longer feels like a burden. It becomes a part of your journey toward growth. The heart finds stability not by receiving everything immediately, but by knowing that everything comes at the most perfect moment. You learn to breathe through the waiting instead of breaking under it. You learn to say, Allah knows what I do not. His timing is not late. My understanding is simply limited. This shift in perspective dissolves much of the fear that once clouded the mind. And slowly the heart transitions from impatience to acceptance, from worry to trust, from agitation to deep, quiet calm. Inner peace comes from remembering that challenges are divinely measured, never random. And this understanding becomes a powerful anchor for a heart that feels overwhelmed by the weight of life. Every hardship is crafted with exact precision, tailored specifically for the soul that experiences it. Nothing is accidental, nothing is chaotic, and nothing arrives without purpose. When you realize this, the pain that once felt senseless begins to hold meaning. The trials that seemed unfair begin to reveal layers of wisdom. And the difficulties that once pushed you into fear start pulling you closer to Allah. A believer finds calmness not because life becomes smooth, but because they start to see their struggles as part of a divine design. When something hurts, you remind yourself that Allah has already measured it, its intensity, its duration, and even the strength you will gain from it. Not a single tear falls outside of His knowledge. Not a single heartbreak escapes His awareness. And not a single moment of difficulty is without compensation. This realization comforts the heart in ways nothing else can. When you begin to trust that every challenge is chosen by the one who knows your limits better than you know yourself, you stop fearing what comes your way. You stop doubting your ability to endure. You stop assuming that your hardships are punishments. Instead, you begin to understand that they are tools that shape you, humble you, strengthen you, and ultimately elevate you. The mind becomes calmer when it stops asking, why is this happening to me? And starts saying, this is measured for me. Accepting that your path is intentional brings a quiet strength that no external chaos can shake. And in this understanding, you find a peace rooted not in circumstance, but in the certainty that your struggles are part of a divine plan crafted with love, mercy, and absolute knowledge. True calmness is nurtured through consistent dhikr, which anchors the soul when the world shakes. And this is a reality every believer experiences when life becomes overwhelming. The heart is naturally restless. It absorbs stress, fear, disappointment, and uncertainty like a sponge. But dhikr, remembering Allah with sincerity, cleanses the heart of the heaviness that builds up inside it. It brings the soul back into alignment with its creator, reminding it of who truly holds control over all things. When you engage in dhikr, even silently, you are reminding your mind that it does not need to carry the weight of the world alone. There is something beautifully transformative about repeating the words Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, Allahu Akbar, or La ilaha illallah. These are not just sounds, they are spiritual lifelines. They clear the mental fog, slow the racing thoughts, and soften the intense emotions that cloud judgment. Dhikr turns chaos into clarity because it redirects the heart toward the one who can calm any storm. The moment you remember him, your inner turmoil begins to settle as if the soul recognizes its true home once again. In times of fear, dhikr becomes the believer's refuge. In times of sadness, it becomes healing. In times of confusion, it becomes guidance. And in times of anger, it becomes purification. The world may pull you in 100 directions, but the remembrance of Allah pulls you back to the center, back to balance, back to peace. The heart becomes calm not when life becomes easy, but when it becomes connected. Dhikr is that connection. It reminds you that you are never alone, never abandoned, never unsupported. It teaches the mind to breathe, the soul to trust, and the worries to loosen their grip. Through remembrance, you find a tranquility that no noise, no stress, and no hardship can remove, because it flows directly from the presence of Allah in your heart. Trust, tawakkul, is what transforms fear into strength by handing the burden back to Allah. And this shift in the heart is what brings a calmness deeper than anything the world can offer. Fear grows when you believe you must handle everything alone. When you carry your problems as if their solutions depend solely on your effort or intelligence. But the moment you remind yourself that Allah is the one who manages all affairs, the heaviness you once felt begins to dissolve. Your mind stops racing, your chest stops tightening, and your heart begins to breathe again. Tawakkul doesn't mean you stop trying. It means you stop worrying about outcomes that are not in your control. You take the steps you can, and you leave what you cannot to the one who never fails. It is knowing that Allah will not let your efforts go to waste, even if the results do not match your expectations. Tawakkul is the quiet confidence that whatever is written for you will reach you even if the entire world tries to block it. And whatever is not written for you will never reach you even if the entire world tries to push it into your hands. When you trust Allah deeply, you no longer panic about the future. You no longer feel defeated by delays, rejections, or disappointments. You start to see them as divine redirections, guiding you towards something better than what you were asking for. You begin to understand that every outcome carries wisdom, every delay carries mercy, and every closed door carries protection. Tawakkul teaches your mind to slow down and your heart to settle. It reminds you that you are held, guided, and cared for by the one who knows your fears, your hopes, and your limits. And in that trust, your inner chaos begins to fade, replaced by a peace that comes only from knowing that Allah is handling what you cannot. Patience, sabr, is not a passive act, but an active spiritual resilience built during storms and understanding. This changes the way you experience hardship. Many people think patience means simply waiting, surviving, or enduring without choice. But in Islam, sabr is strength. It is the quiet courage to remain steady when everything inside you wants to collapse. It is the decision to hold on to faith when your heart is tired, your mind is overwhelmed, and your circumstances feel heavy. Sabr is not weakness. It is a form of worship, a deep expression of trust in Allah's wisdom and His timing. When your life becomes difficult, you have two voices within you. One voice says, break, give up, complain, lose hope. The other voice whispers, stay steady, hold on, Allah is near. Sabr is choosing the second voice, even when it feels like the harder choice. And with each act of patience, each moment you resist despair, your soul becomes stronger, more anchored, more grounded. Patience does not remove pain, but it gives meaning to it. It teaches you that your hardship is not random. It is a path toward growth, purification, and elevation. Allah sees the tears you hold back, the frustrations you swallow, the effort you continue to make despite feeling exhausted. None of this goes unnoticed. The Prophet said that no believer is afflicted with even the prick of a thorn, except that Allah erases some of their sins or elevates their rank. This is the beauty of sabr. Every moment of pain becomes a moment of reward. Sabr also trains your mind to stay calm. It teaches you to pause instead of react, to breathe instead of break, and to reflect instead of panic. With patience comes clarity, and with clarity comes peace. When you cultivate sabr, you are not simply enduring life's storms, you are learning how to stand firmly in them while your heart remains connected to Allah. The mind becomes calm when it stops arguing with destiny and starts embracing qadr, and this shift is one of the most liberating changes a believer can experience. So much of our inner turmoil comes from resisting what Allah has already written. We replay events, question outcomes, and struggle against moments that were never meant to unfold any differently. The heart becomes restless, not because the decree is harsh, but because we have not yet made peace with it. The moment you stop wrestling with what Allah has willed and begin to trust that His plan is wiser than your desires, a deep stillness enters your mind. Qadr is not meant to frighten you, it is meant to free you. It frees you from the illusion that you control everything. It frees you from the weight of blaming yourself for what you could never have prevented. It frees you from the fear of the unknown, because the unknown is already known to Allah. When you accept that what is written for you is perfectly chosen, you allow your heart to settle into a state of acceptance rather than resistance. This acceptance does not mean you stop striving or stop caring. It means you understand that your effort belongs to you, but the outcome belongs to Allah. It means you learn to say, I did my part, and now I trust His wisdom in the result. This thought alone dissolves so much anxiety. It clears the mental noise that comes from constantly thinking, what if, and replaces it with the peaceful certainty of Allah knows. Embracing qadr teaches the mind to stop fighting the past and fearing the future. It guides you to live in the present moment with a heart that is rooted in contentment. And when your heart is content with Allah's decree, the storms may continue around you, but inside there is a calmness that nothing can shake. Emotional pain becomes lighter when seen as a means to grow closer to Allah, and this realization changes the way the heart carries its struggles. Pain feels unbearable when you believe it is pointless, when you think it is something happening to you rather than something happening for you. But when you understand that Allah uses hardship as a tool for purification, elevation, and nearness, the weight you once felt begins to soften. You still feel the ache, but it no longer destroys you. You still shed tears, but they no longer drown you. Pain transforms from a wound into a doorway, one that leads you back to the one who heals all wounds. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every loss has the potential to bring you closer to Allah in a way comfort never could. When life is smooth, the heart often forgets. But when it breaks, the soul awakens. You begin to turn inward, to ask deeper questions, to seek meaning beyond the surface of your circumstances. And it is in those moments of vulnerability that Allah draws you nearer, teaching you through your pain what you could never learn through ease. Pain humbles the ego, softens the heart, and reminds you of your dependence on the one who never leaves your side. It strips away illusions of control and reveals the truth. You are held, guided, and carried by Allah even when everything you relied on falls apart. And in this realization, emotional pain becomes lighter, not because the situation changes, but because your perspective does. Instead of asking, why is this happening? You begin to ask, what is Allah teaching me through this? This question alone brings peace, because it opens the heart to growth, wisdom, and inner transformation. And with this renewed understanding, every hardship becomes not a punishment, but a pathway, leading you gently, steadily, beautifully back to the one who loves you more than anyone else ever could. Breath deepens when the believer realizes that Allah never leaves a soul alone in its struggles. And this awareness becomes a powerful source of calm during moments of fear, confusion, or emotional heaviness. So often we feel overwhelmed because we imagine ourselves carrying the burden by ourselves. We think the weight of the situation rests solely on our shoulders, and that thought alone is enough to make the heart panic and the mind spiral. But the moment you remember that Allah is with you, closer than your own heartbeat, everything inside you begins to soften. Your breath slows, your chest loosens, and a quiet reassurance settles into your soul. Knowing that Allah is with you doesn't remove the difficulty, but it changes how you experience it. You no longer walk into challenges feeling unprotected. You no longer stand in the middle of uncertainty feeling abandoned. You move through life with the understanding that the one who created you is guiding every step you take. When you wake up worried, He is with you. When you cry in silence, He hears you. When you feel lost, He is guiding you even when you can't yet see the direction. This companionship from Allah is what gives the heart courage. When the believer truly internalizes this truth, the mind stops racing toward worst-case scenarios. The heart stops sinking into hopelessness. You begin to breathe not out of fear, but out of trust. You remind yourself that if Allah has brought you to a situation, He has already prepared the strength you need to pass through it. And if He has written the difficulty for you, He has also written the relief that will follow. This understanding turns every breath into an act of faith. It shifts your inner state from panic to presence, from tension to surrender. And as you breathe with the awareness that Allah is holding you, supporting you, and watching over you, even the hardest moments feel lighter because you are no longer facing them alone. Forgiveness of yourself and others removes the inner noise that disrupts peace. And this truth becomes clear the moment you reflect on how heavy the heart feels when it holds on to grudges, regrets, or guilt. Carrying anger towards someone else is like carrying fire in your chest. It burns you long before it ever reaches them. Holding on to guilt for past mistakes traps your mind in a cycle of self-blame that steals your calm and weakens your spirit. But forgiveness, in its quiet and gentle way, releases the emotional weight that keeps you restless. It frees your heart to breathe again. When you forgive someone, you are not declaring that what they did was acceptable. You are simply choosing not to let their actions control your inner peace. You are choosing to reclaim your emotional space. You are allowing your heart to heal instead of remaining chained to pain. Forgiveness becomes a gift to yourself, a way of saying, my peace matters more than holding on to hurt. And when you forgive yourself, you acknowledge that you are human, imperfect, and still deserving of Allah's mercy. Allah invites us to forgiveness, not for the benefit of others, but for the health of our own hearts. The one who forgives is the one who sleeps peacefully, whose chest feels light, whose mind is free from the noise of resentment. And Allah, in His infinite mercy, promises that those who forgive will be forgiven by Him. Something far greater than any apology we could ever receive from people. Forgiveness clears the heart so that calmness can enter it. It removes the emotional clutter that distracts the mind and weighs down the soul. When you let go, truly let go, your thoughts become clearer, your breaths become deeper, and your heart becomes more open to the tranquility Allah wants to place within it. In forgiveness, you reclaim your peace, your softness, and your connection to the one who heals all wounds. Gratitude redirects the mind from what is missing to what is divinely gifted. And this simple shift in perspective can completely transform the state of your heart. So often, the reason we feel unsettled, anxious, or overwhelmed is because we focus on what we don't have, what we lost, what didn't work out, what hasn't arrived yet. The mind becomes a magnet for disappointment when it constantly looks toward the empty spaces of life. But when you practice gratitude, even in the smallest ways, something starts to change within you. Your heart softens, your thoughts settle, and your inner world becomes calmer. Gratitude doesn't mean ignoring your struggles or pretending everything is perfect. It means acknowledging the blessings that coexist with your difficulties. It means noticing the warmth in your life, even while walking through cold seasons. Allah teaches us that if we are grateful, He will increase us. And part of that increase is a deeper sense of peace. Gratitude expands the heart, making room for hope, clarity, and trust. It lifts your emotional state from scarcity to abundance, from fear to faith. When you consciously choose to notice what Allah has given you, your breath, your safety, your ability to think, your loved ones, your chances to repent, your moments of joy, you begin to realize that you are never empty. Even in hardship, Allah surrounds you with signs of His mercy. Gratitude turns those signs into sources of strength. And with each moment of gratitude, the mind becomes more content. You stop comparing your journey to others. You stop rushing toward what hasn't come. You begin to appreciate the present, understanding that contentment is not found in having everything. It is found in recognizing the gift of what is already yours. Gratitude quiets the noise of longing and regret. It centers your heart and reminds you that Allah is constantly giving, protecting, and providing for you in ways you may not even notice. And with that awareness, calmness finally finds a home within you. Reflection, tafakkur, softens the heart and reminds the mind of its purpose. And in a world filled with distraction, this practice becomes essential for inner calm. The mind bends under pressure when it never pauses, never observes, never steps back to understand the deeper meaning behind life's events. When you begin to reflect intentionally, even for a few moments each day, you create space inside your heart. A quiet space where clarity can grow and where Allah's signs can finally be seen. Reflection is not merely thinking, it is seeing with the eyes of the heart. It is looking at your life like a tapestry, noticing how the threads of hardship, ease, delay, and blessing are woven together with divine precision. When you reflect, you stop reacting impulsively to every emotion or problem. You begin to notice patterns, wisdom, and lessons in your journey. You start asking not, why is this happening to me? But what is Allah teaching me through this? That shift alone brings a deep and lasting calm. When you engage in tafakkur, you reconnect with the truth that your life is not random. Your existence is purposeful. Your experiences are meaningful and your path is guided. You begin to see that even your struggles carry beauty. Even your delays carry mercy. And even your heartbreaks carry transformation. This awareness brings an inner stillness that no external chaos can shake. Reflection also reconnects you with Allah's creation. Sitting with the sky, the trees, the quiet of the night, or the rhythm of your own breath reminds you of your smallness and Allah's greatness. It humbles you in a gentle way, softening the edges of your worries. When the heart becomes soft, it becomes receptive, open to guidance, open to healing, open to peace. Through tafakkur, the mind slows down, the heart opens, and the soul remembers its true direction. And it is in this remembering that calmness settles, not as a fleeting emotion, but as a steady, rooted state of being. Dua is the bridge between anxiety and tranquility. And when you truly understand what it means to call upon Allah, your entire inner world begins to shift. So much of our distress comes from holding worry inside, carrying fears, questions, and pain in a heart that was never meant to hold them alone. Dua is the act of releasing that weight into the hands of the one who can carry it. It is a moment where your soul pauses, breathes, and remembers that you are not navigating this life by yourself. You speak, Allah listens. You cry, Allah responds. You tremble, Allah steadies you. This connection alone can calm the deepest storms within you. When you raise your hands, you are not simply asking for solutions. You are admitting your dependence on the one who loves you more than your own soul. Dua reorients the heart. It redirects your fear toward hope, your confusion toward clarity, and your uncertainty toward trust. Even before the prayer is answered, something inside you softens. You begin to feel held, supported, and understood. The act of speaking to Allah becomes a form of healing in itself. There is a unique peace that descends upon the believer who frequently makes dua, because dua reminds you that outcomes are not your burden, effort is yours, results are Allah's. Dua teaches you that nothing is too big for Him, nothing is too complicated, nothing is out of reach. And when you internalize this, your anxiety begins to loosen its grip, your heart begins to feel lighter, not because the situation has changed, but because you have handed it over to the one who controls all situations. Dua also replaces isolation with connection. It reminds you that Allah is near. Not distant, not silent, but intimately close. And in that closeness, calmness grows. Every whispered prayer, every silent plea, every tear that falls during dua becomes a step away from fear and a step toward tranquility. Over time, dua becomes not just something you do, but somewhere you go. A refuge, a sanctuary, a place of deep inner peace. When you reach a stage where you start viewing life through a broader spiritual lens, you begin to recognize that not every challenge deserves a reaction, and not every negative situation requires you to sacrifice your inner stability. This mindset allows you to detach emotionally from things that once disturbed you deeply. You start to understand that your peace is far more valuable than proving a point, winning an argument, or responding to every provocation. This realization doesn't make you weak, it makes you wise. It shows that you have developed the emotional maturity to choose where to invest your energy and what to simply walk away from. You learn that silence is sometimes more powerful than speaking, and patience is often more impactful than anger. This key point reminds you that your inner world matters more than the noise around you. As you evolve inwardly, the desire to control others fades, and the focus shifts to controlling your own reactions, thoughts, and responses. You understand that peace is built from the inside, and no external situation can destroy it unless you allow it. You realize that everything in life is temporary. Emotions, experiences, struggles, and that responding impulsively can often worsen situations, while responding with calmness protects your emotional and mental well-being. You also begin to see that blessings come when the heart is calm and the mind is clear. Clarity grows when you stop rushing, stop reacting, and start observing. You learn that sometimes the best decision is to step back, breathe, and let God handle what is beyond your control. This perspective helps you prioritize your emotional health, conserve your energy, and stay aligned with your true purpose. Over time, what once bothered you no longer affects you the same way because you have grown stronger, wiser, and more spiritually aware. In the end, true strength is not measured by how loudly you react, how forcefully you respond, or how quickly you defend yourself. Real strength is the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are, trusting your path, and protecting the peace Allah has placed within your heart. Life will always test you. People will misunderstand you and situations will try to shake you, but the one who stays grounded, patient, and connected to Allah walks through every storm with dignity. Your growth is your victory. Your calmness is your power. Your silence at the right moment is your wisdom. Never let anything or anyone take away the peace you have worked so hard to build. Rise above what drains you. Walk away from what breaks you, and stay focused on what strengthens your soul. Choose peace, choose growth, and choose to become the version of yourself that reflects light even in the darkest moments.